major party candidates. Well, at least at the presidential level, this is very, very difficult. For those of you who followed the last run that Ron Paul did for president, you know that the rule was that you had to win 5 primary states in order to be nominated. And Ron Paul got that. And then they changed the rules to make it, I can't remember if it was 7 or 9, 8, okay. They changed the rules to make it 8 at the last minute, so he had no chance to change, he had no chance to try to get those other critical 3 states. That was purposeful. Also, there's a lot of concern about whether votes are accurately counted. And I've given you a couple of references. The documentary Hacking Democracy goes through why we shouldn't be suspicious of vote totals. And you can find it at blackboxvoting.org. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. It's kind of an eye-opener. Again, it's a little bit discouraging. It's especially discouraging when you realize that statists understand that it's important not who votes, but who counts the votes. Here's a quote by Stalin, which basically says that. So it makes you very suspicious. And I personally, in my career, have seen a lot of voter fraud. I was the campaign manager for a sheriff candidate in Kentucky one year, and our candidate was allowed to watch the vote counting. And he said every single ballot box had the seal broken, and the matching seal wasn't even there, it was a different seal. Clearly, the votes had been tampered with. He was told by his friends, 3 of his friends, that they had voted absentee for him. And yet he only got 1 absentee vote. So clearly there were some problems with that election. There are problems in who counts the votes. So what can we do? What do we do with this information? Well, think about what if we actually elected someone to Congress? What if the LP, and I know the LP may not be as active here as it is in other states, but kind of follow along with me because I think the conclusion is going to be something you're going to be excited about. What if we actually elected someone to Congress as a Libertarian Party candidate? What would happen? Well, I don't think much would happen. We'd get our 15 minutes of fame, but that one person, or even 2 people, they would not be able to change the course of Congress any more than Ron Paul had been able to, because Congress is ruled by a majority vote too. So we would have somebody on the inside who could alert us to more Patriot Acts coming down the road, but as far as actually rolling back big government because they were elected, probably not. So even if the LP focused all its resources on getting congressional candidates elected, I'm not sure that it would do the trick. So where do we go? We have to ask ourselves, where do we really want to put our resources? Do we want to try to elect members to Congress? Or do we want to roll back big government today? Yeah, now I know it's kind of funny, but actually the LP is very good at rolling back big government today, and I want to share some of this with you that you might not have even been aware of. It's a lesson that I should have learned in the early 80s because I was involved in something that taught that lesson, but I didn't get it. Well, I finally woke up and I want to share it with you now. So let me take you back to the early 80s when we had to do all of our brochures by hand instead of by the computer. This is the olden days. And you can see that a group of us in Kalamazoo ran for city commission. And there I am. And Cheryl Lutz, who's a big player in this. And what we did is we ran for city commission as a slate because that was the way you did it for city commission. There was the establishment slate, which was the one that was already elected, and there were 2 others. And we came actually in second, which was amazing. But what was even more amazing was that we got those votes in spite of the fact of what the media did to us. Now, this was supposed to be a nonpartisan city commission election. But, of course, 4 of us on the slate were Libertarian Party members, and the other one on the slate was a current elected member, Francis Hamilton, and he was actually what we would call today a small L libertarian. Okay, so the media decided that they would take us down because we were calling ourselves the taxpayers' protection state. We wanted to lower taxes, property taxes. That was our big thing. Obviously, the city didn't like that too much. So they thought they would take us down by telling everyone that we were libertarian. And back then, since nobody really knew what a libertarian was, they tried to distort our positions and talked about the whole range of things that really have nothing to do with the city commission race, but they thought would taint us. So, of course, in self-defense, we had to talk about these positions too. So the voters of Kalamazoo got an education as to what a libertarian was, and anyone who was paying attention to that election understood what a libertarian was by the end of that election. So that's why I say it was actually quite surprising. We still came in second. But the real lesson came after that. What happened is the city commission, excited because they had won again, decided they would give us the big tax boondoggle that they ever had. What they intended to do was have railroad consolidation. Now you got to think about Kalamazoo, not even 100,000 people, and they were worried because sometimes we had to wait 10 minutes for a train to go by, so they were going to reroute all of the trains in a very expensive cloverleaf like you see with highways, which we had none of course.